Started. Good.
All right. Good morning, everybody. We are on Daf Memtes, Memtes Amud Aleph. So the Gemara says in the Mishnah, Taimnim B'Ksus. We have the Mishnah in Memtes Amud Aleph, basically like 15 lines from the top, maybe a third of the way down. So the first Mishnah of the page says, Taimnim B'Ksus V'Peiros B'Kanfe Yaina V'Nesar Shel Charashim V'Nura Shel Pishtin. Daka. Says the Mishnah, one is allowed to go ahead and do hatmana with clothing, or fruit, right? All these things are things that insulate but do not add heat. V'kanfe yona, right? And feathers from a dove. V'nesar shel charashim, and these are, I think this is the what's called I think it's sawdust from carpenters. Right, and then it says menorah shel pishtan, and also that which when you comb the flax, all the stuff that falls off, like the little pieces there, you all do these things at hatmana, and those are small one. And Rabbi Yehuda Eiser Bedaka, he says no. If there's a little small, the small pieces after, that's usher because that adds heat. But the larger ones, there's more airspace in there, and therefore it doesn't insulate as well, and therefore it's not ma'asif hevel, does not add heat, and therefore it would be permitted to go ahead and use the larger ones. We'll soon explain which thing Rabbi Yehuda is talking about. He says you can use the larger pieces. Let's see. So Rabbi Yanai says, Rabbi Yanai, speaking of Kanfa Yaina, Tefillin, Srichin, Guf Naki. Tefillin, to one who goes ahead and wears tefillin, he needs a clean body. He needs a clean body when he wears tefillin. Why? Elisha Bal Kanafayim. Like Elisha Bal Kanafayim, as we'll soon see. So Elisha Bal Kanafayim, he used to go ahead and keep a Guf Naki, and therefore we should be just like him. So Mahi. So what does that mean to keep a Guf Naki? Abai Omer Shalo Yafiach Ben. Abai says that one should go ahead and not pass gas while wearing tefillin. That means a Guf Naki. And Rava says no. Not necessarily a person, anybody wearing tefillin, it is possible for one to pass gas, and therefore that would require, nobody would be allowed to wear tefillin. So it doesn't make sense. He says, no, shalayisha and bahen, a person should not go ahead and sleep in them. In other words, a person sleeps in them, he should be able to have the discipline not to be able to fall asleep, and that's a person who is gufnaki, because if he falls asleep, then perhaps he'll go ahead and pass gas. Now, why was he called Elisha Bal Kanafayim? One time, the Roman government issued a decree on Yisrael. Whoever goes ahead and puts on tefillin, they can go ahead and put a hole in his head. And Elisha didn't care. He went on, he put his tefillin on. He went out of the marketplace, like on the marketplace with tefillin, he didn't think he was going to be seen. And an officer saw him. So he ran from him, but then he was running away from him, he was fleeing. The Kevan Shagia, so once the officer reached him, not Lamarosha, he removed his tefillin real quick, the other held in his hand. Right, he held his hand, tried to shield his tefillin shalrosh from him. So Amarlo, Ma'azebidech, what's in your hand? So Amarlo, Kanfe Yona. He says, what's in my hand? My hand is wings of doves, right? The wings of doves, those are my hand. So Pashas, the officer didn't believe him. He said, let me see what's in your hand. So he stuck out his hand, the Nimsa Kanfe Yona. And it turns out that indeed there was a miracle happened, and it wasn't his tefillin in his hand anymore, but rather it was the wings of dove. Therefore, Elisha Bal Kanafayim. Therefore, we call him Elisha Bal Kanafayim to remember this miracle that happened that saved his life. Why did he dafka say the wings of a Yona? So Misharafas from other birds. Mishum the Amtil Knesset Yisrael because the Knesset Yisrael is compared to a dove. Shnei Pasuk says Kanfe Yona nichpa b'kesef. So it says there. Pasuk says Kanfe Yona referring to Bnei Yisrael. And why is it called Yona? So my Yona Kanfe Maginas Aleha, just like a Yona, its wings protected on its sides. Aleha Af Yisrael mitzvahs Maginas Aleha. So to Bnei Yisrael, their mitzvahs go ahead and protect them, and therefore that's why they are similar to a dove. And therefore, and remember of Elisha, who was very careful with his tefillin. So therefore, he was called Elisha Bal Kanafayim. Fine. And then we have the last statement of the Mishnah was Rabbi Yehuda says, so there were two things that were said before. There was the sawdust of carpenters, and then there was like the combings from the flax. So the question is, and then we said only because you can even use the small ones, and comes Rabbi Yehuda says no, you can't use the small ones, only the big ones. So what was the argument? Rabbi Yehuda and Asar shel charashim kai or Nefaz shel pishtin kai. Which was he arguing on? Was he arguing about the sawdust that no, you can't use sawdust, you can only use large chunks of wood, or was he arguing on the combings of flax, you can only use the larger pieces? So Tashmak, and listen to the Tanya. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda says Nura shel pishtin daka. Regarding the second part, right, the combings of flax, daka harehu kazevel, right, the small pieces are just like zevel, just like manure, and therefore those are maisif hevel, those add heat, and therefore one would not be able to go ahead and insulate prior to Shabbos because it's maisif hevel, and therefore the small ones again use shmamino anor shalpishin and koy shmamino. So learn from here that it was dafka talking about the combings of the flax, and we're not talking about the sawdust. Fine. Anaya Mishnah. Mishnah says. Taimnin b'shlachin. So one is allowed to go ahead and do hatmana with shlachin. Shlachin are hides. Umetalton oisam begizet semer, and you can go ahead and move it. It's not muksa. Metalton oisam begizet semer. Now, when it comes to gizet semer, when it comes to shearings of wool, right? You're allowed to go ahead and use hatmana with them. The ein metalton oisam. Those are muksa. All right. So you're allowed to do hatmana in something that is muksa. So how can he do it? If it's muksa, what does he do? So says the first opinion, he's allowed to go ahead and just pick up the cover, right? Whatever he was doing hatman it, he picks up the cover, and then it's and then whatever was on top of it insulating, right? I guess the piece of wool would fall off, and that's it. And then he would and take the stuff away.
In other words, it's tiltul min. It's tiltul min hatzad.
I'm sorry?
It's tiltul min hatzad.
Oh, right. So in other words, and therefore it's okay. And Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah Omer, right? So he says, right? So he says, kupa mita al tzida v'naita. He goes ahead. What does he do? He says no. He says, according to the first opinion, you're allowed to just take it out. So according to the second opinion, no, that one you have to go ahead and tilt it, right? You tilt it over, right? Like you take you take the pot and you tilt it over and take whatever food is, and then therefore by tilting it, you're not actively moving the stuff off because that would be muksa. Rather, according to this opinion, right, you have to go ahead and basically do move it tilt it outside, right? Do it a separate way, right? Right. So he says. Because what happens if you would take it out the other way? If you just take it out, some stuff would fall in, and then he wouldn't be able to put it back because those pieces are still there. So the Chachamim say you can go ahead and take it and return it.
It sounds like
one second.
Both opinions.
One second.
Both opinions.
Eddie, wait. You go ask a question before. Yeah, you go.
Yeah, so it seems the concern is, let's say, hide is okay versus wool, because perhaps, is it because it tears, it shred on Shabbos?
Right. So what they're saying here is that the problem is that the shearings of wool are muksa. So if I take out something, right, so Rashi explains that some of the pieces of wool that were on top of it, because it's not one large thing, will fall inside the space. And if a person wanted to return it to that space, those things would be in the way. And therefore, they would have to take it out with their hands, and it's muksa. So the issue is not necessarily the removal of it. The issue, how do you get it back into that space without touching muksa? So therefore, that was the reason why they said. So the first opinion was to take it on, they fall back, and even if the stuff goes in place, it's not a big deal. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah says, right, you have to go ahead and tip it off, and no, don't take the pot out, because if you take the pot out, then the stuff's going to fall in place and you can't put it back, right? So therefore, just tilt it so you take whatever food you want out of it and then leave the pots or the dish insulated. So that was that. Fine.
They were both opinions had to do with tiltum and sad, but they had different ways of doing it.
Well, right. That was correct. In other words, they're not taking the pieces off. Everyone agrees with that, right? The issue is that after you use it, right, is it muksa? Are these things muksa that you can't go back? We'll soon see in the Gemara. Let's see. So Yosef Rabbi Yonasan ben Achinoi Rabbi Yonasan ben Elazar. Yosef, Rabbi Chanina, Bar Chama. So these three Rabbanim were sitting Gabayu. They were sitting all together. They asked, Shlachan shel balabayis tanan, aval she'uman came in the kapitalayu lo metaltanahu. There, what you talk about the hides. Now, is it talking about a person, regular person? People used to have hides, right, in their house, and eventually they would want to use it, go ahead and bring it to a tanner, and would have it done. Or is it a person who sells hides? Now, a person, what's the difference? Now, a person who owns a hide, so his hide is for his own personal use, however he wants. But a person who sells hides, a tanner or whatever it is, to that person, to him, it's merchandise. It's not necessarily, right, something usable. It's merchandise. And merchandise you can't use on Shabbos because you want to preserve it, because you want to conduct business with it during the week. So that which we said, the hides, right? In the Mishnah says, you can use them as insulated, they're not muksa. Was this only of basically a private use of balabayis, right? But if it was belonged to, let's say, a person who sold hides, since he's makban, he's muksa, lo metaltanu. Dilmar, perhaps shaluman tanan. Or maybe the Mishnah was even talking about somebody who sells hides. He's allowed to go ahead and take one and use it for atmana. The kol shekei, and certainly shel balabayis, and certainly have a private homeowner, he would be able to go ahead and use that he would be able to use it for hatman. So Rabbi Yonasan ben Elazar. So says Rabbi Yonasan ben Elazar, mistaver shel balabayis tanan. It sounds like it must be of the balabayis. Tanan aval sha'uma and kapitolai. But a person who sells merchandise, obviously, since he's makban, it's merchandise. It's not something that he wants to ruin. He wants to make sure it's good. Therefore, that would be muksa.
Well, why is the question first coming up now? We've had so many cases of people using things that could possibly be muksa or not muksa. And
they say, why do they ask? I mean, why do they ask that? I mean, why dafka of this of craftsman?
Like a candle holder, if you're allowed to use it, then he sells candles.
Right. We said earlier, with ksus, clothing or fruits, right? Were you talking about someone who sells fruits or someone whose own fruits they are?
Right.
Okay. Good. Why dafka here by a tanner? All right. I don't know. Good question. All right. So the Gemara answers. Rabbi Yonasan gives his answer. He says it's logical to say it's only shel balabais, but it's muksa of that of a person who sells it. However, Amar Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama says Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama says no. Kachama Rabbi Shov Rabbi Yossi. This Rabbi Yossi says Abba Shalcha Havi. My father, he was a carpenter, right? He used to go ahead and sell hides, right? He was a shalcha. He used to word with the shlachin. V'Amar Havil Shlachin V'nei Shevalai. He used to go ahead and say on Shabbos, right? They're used on Shabbos. And go into my warehouse. Go get a one of the hides and let's go sit on it. In other words, what do you see? That even on Shabbos he would use it. So obviously he didn't consider it muksa. So therefore, perhaps our Mishnah is not only talking about the hides of a balabayis, but even the hides of somebody who sells hides. So Meisei has a kasha. It says Nesarim shel balabayis metaltanoisan the shel umen ein metaltanoisan, the boards of a balabayis. So if someone has a board in their house, you can use it at Shabbos. However, if you're a carpenter or somebody a worker who uses it, right, for construction or sales, whatever it is, it's muksa ein metaltanoisan v'im chisheva says lam pas dorchin ben kach metalton. But if you think about it, before Shabbos, I'm going to go ahead and use this as a table, right? Let's say to serve my guests. Then it's not muksa because it's usable on Shabbos. So you see over there clearly that if he didn't go ahead and have intentions to use on Shabbos, it should be muksa. So this should be no different than the hides. So you see hides, if it's owned by a salesman, should not be, if it's owned by a salesman, should be muksa. So the Gemara says, no, shani nasar the kapitalayu. No, when it comes to boards, they're very particular about the boards. And obviously you can't just go to Home Depot and, get a 2x4, right? Those boards, it took long, hard work to have it exactly as they wanted. And therefore, they were more makbid than a hide. You take a hide, you throw it down, you sit down, and no one cares. So therefore, maybe it could be different. That in the case of boards, those are muksa unless you don't think about it. But in the case of a hide, since, you throw it around, it's not a big deal, it's not going to get ruined. Therefore, perhaps there's a reason why those aren't muksa. So Tashma, come and listen. Orais bein avudin bein shein avudin mutter l'talton b'Shabbos. So hides, whether they were worked, they're already tanned ready or not, your mutter to touch them on Shabbos. Now the reason why they said whether mutter or whether they were tanned or whatever on Shabbos, where they worked the leather is because cases of issues of tuma. So lo amru avudin elin tuma bilvad. We're only talking about tuma. In other words, the reason why they made a stipulation, whether or not they were avud or not, whether or not they were worked and made into basically a final product, is really only regarding whether it's makabel tumah or not. Because remember, if it's not a final product, then it's not makabel tumah. But if it is a final product, then it is makabel tuma. It's already considered to be a kli. Right? So that bilvad. So my law of lo shnab shel balabais, lo shnab shoban, but it doesn't make any other conditions. So obviously, maybe this is referring to all types of hides. Hides owned by a balabais, by an individual, and a person who sells hides. And you see over there where it says over there, beferish, mutter l'talta b'Shabbos. It's not muksa. So Gemara says, no, lo shel balabais. No, that was only talking about a balabais. But what do you tell me of a carpenter or a person who sells? No, a metalton. You can't go ahead and they're muksa. You can't touch on Shabbos. Ihach, if that's the case. But that which you gave the condition in this brisa of whether it's worked or not, right? Go ahead and put another condition in there. With what type of hides are we talking about? B'shel balabais, only hides that are opened by a private owner. But if it belongs to basically a person who sells hides, then you would not be able to go ahead and touch them on Shabbos because they'd be muksa. So in other words, if you're telling me there's a difference, so since we're already making a differentiation when it comes to tuma, make another differentiation when it comes to which is muksa, which is not. So Gemara says, Gemara says, no, kula balabais kamari. And it says, no, really, it's all talking about a balabais, and there is no reason to, in other words, that whole bais was talking about that of a balabais. So in other words, you don't need a stipulation because you're already talking about the balabais, therefore you don't have to make a stipulation of what case we're talking about, only with the balabais, not with a hide salesman. And the truth is, Gemara answers, ketanai, it's makolas tanaim. Says the Tanakama, the Brisa, the hides of a balabais, those are not muksa because those are used to sit down on or lie upon. However, that of a hide salesman ain't metalton osam because that's considered to be merchandise. And Rabbi Yossi says no, echad zev metalton osam. Either one you can go ahead and be metalton. Either one you can go ahead and touch and move on Shabbos. It's not an issue of muksa. Fine. Hadur Yasve. So they were sitting. Right, this is the three Rabbanim, Rabbi Yonasan ben Achinoi, Rabbi Yonasan ben Elazar, and Rabbi Chanina bar Chama. So the three of them were sitting, and the Kabbalah, and they asked a question: that which we say, right? It's a Gemara later on, right? Some say it's like the second half of Masechah Shabbos when they get into the Malachas of Shabbos on Daf Ayin Gimel when it lists all the 39 Malachas, or right when it says 40 minus 1, right? So the number we get 39 from, right? Connected me. Where does 39 come from? So Rabbi Chanina bar Chama says Rabbi Chanina bar Chama Connected Avodas Hamishkan. Connected the basically we count the 39 actions that were done in the Mishkan for them to build, for them to go ahead and build the Mishkan, right? Like Rashi says, right? Connected was a Mishkan. This is what we listed later on in Perek Klal Gadol. How you'd strichel a Mishkan, they would deep the Mishkan. Parsha Shabbos, nisbechol Parshas. I'm just reading for the Rashi, by the way. Well, Parsha Shabbos. Nisbechol Parshas Malachas HaMishkan, and the Parsha of Shabbos, when it describes thou shall not work on Shabbos, what does it mean to do malach on Shabbos? And it's put right next to the Parsha of do this work for the Mishkan, Lumad Hamenet, in order to learn from one another. So just since the close proximity of the two teaches us that which malach are we talking about that is forbidden on Shabbos, that's the malach that was used to build the Mishkan, which is the next Parsha. So in other words, that's the reason why the two are linked, and therefore any of those actions, if you count them out, there are 39, that's the reason why we have 39. And Omar Luhu, Rabbi Yonasan, Rabbi Elazar, Kach Omar, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yossi ben Lukinya, Keneged, Malacha, Malachtoi, Umalechas Shabbatayra. If you go ahead and you count the time it says the words Malacha, Malachta, Malechas in the Torah, then it comes out to 39. And that comes out to 39. But the truth is, if you go, as we'll soon say actually in the following Gemara, that is actually written more times where it says the word Malacha. Obviously, so only that according to this opinion, there were 39 that were said. Perhaps only 39 was said Lagabe the Mishkan or anything to do with the Mishkan throughout the Torah, versus any time it says Malach, as we're soon going to see in the Gemara. So, Rabbi Yosef. So it says Rabbi Yosef, Vayavo habaisa la'asais malachta. So it says there, Yosef, right? Yosef HaTzadik, right? Not our Yosef HaTzadik, but the one from the Torah, right? So Yosef, he says he came to his house to do his work. Okay. Now it says the word malachto. So is this work counted? So he says, is this included in the count or not? Right? Let's go. okay, I don't know. Let's go bring a Sefer Torah and we'll go through it, right? And we'll search every time it says the word malacha, malachtoi, maleches. Milo Amar Rechana Amar Rabbi Yechon Lo Zez Mishamat Sheyaviu Sefer Torah Madam. All right, did we not learn that by others, Rabbi Rechana, and Rabbi Yechon said about him that they didn't leave there until they brought a Sefer Torah and counted. So I'm like, no. What's the reason why I asked by this case? It says over there, right? It says over there that the malacha was done. Right? This is said by in Shmos when they were told to go ahead and bring their donations. And it says there, and the work was sufficient, and it was sufficient. It was done. Right? So now, is this telling us that the work of the actual Mishkan was done, and therefore this word malacha is referring to the malacha of the Mishkan, and therefore that malacha, that work which was said by Yosef, right, that Yosef really, that he came to the house, to be with Eshes Potiphar. In other words, he wasn't coming to mind his own business, but rather there was an opinion that holds that Yosef was going to, he was enticed by the Eshes Potiphar. He had those intentions. Oh, Dilma. Or maybe it means Vayavo Habaisa Lasas Malachto, really, or maybe it means that he came to actually do actual work, actual labor, and nothing to do with znus or anything like that. And that which you say, that which was says by the Mishkan when they're asked to go ahead and bring all their their materials and donations to build the Mishkan, Hachikam is to say the Shamle Vidasa, right? In other words, that their work was different. Bringing the donations of the donation, bringing the work was all done because they brought everything, and therefore, and that malacha is not included. So which malacha is included? So the Gemara doesn't give an answer, and therefore, now as we don't know which malacha was included in the count, and since we don't know which malacha was included in the count, therefore we don't know. There still remains a machlekes of what it means when Yosef came home to do his malacha. Was he talking about malacha of arayis, or was he talking about malacha of basically doing housework and minding his own business? Satanya Kaman the Omar Keneged Avodas Mishkan. We have a brisa that supports the one who says, the first opinion that says the reason why we have 39 is because you count the labors that they did to build a Mishkan with 39. The Tanya in the brisa Ein Chayvin Elo Malacha Shekiyitz B'Haisa Mishkan. You're only chayiv. That would you say you're chayiv, let's say for chatas or for any penalty, only for malacha Shekiyitz B'Haisa. In other words, that they did in the Mishkan. So Haim Zaru is because they planted, in other words, they needed materials that were planted. So Haim Zaru, they went ahead and seeded. V'atem tizer, and you should not go ahead and seed. Haim Katzer, they went ahead and harvested. V'atem tikatzer, and you should not go ahead and down. Haim Haluas Akrashim Mekarkale Agal, they lifted up, all right, the boards from the ground onto the wagons, which were large enough to be a Rishus Yachid. Therefore, you should not also go ahead and transfer something from a public place from Rishus Hashanah to Rishus Yachid. They carried from the private wagons to the ground. Therefore, you guys should also not go ahead and take from Rishus Yachid to Rishus Hashanah. All right, they transferred from one wagon to another wagon. And you should not go ahead and transfer from one Rishus Yachid to another Rishus Yachid. So the Gemara says, wait, time out. Rishus Yachid, to take from one private house to another, or another private domain, from one private domain to another private domain, I might COVID. Right? On a Doraisa level, what has one done? You're not chai for that. Right? You're not chai for bringing from one Rishus Yachid to another Rishus Yachid. Right? So only when it comes to Rishus Yachid, Rishus Rabbim, vice versa. So rather, he says, in other words, it means one from Rishus Yachid to another Rishus Yachid through a Rishus Rabbim. That a person is chai for, and that was when they did from wagon to wagon. It wasn't just a wagon to wagon next to each other. The Rishus Rabbim was in between, so therefore they would take it from the Rishus Rabbim into the Rishus Yachid, and that would also be one is chai v'chatas for. So then we said in the Mishnah, the gizeit semervei metaltim. So he said in the Mishnah, after we said b'shlachim with the hides, the second case was the shearings of wool, right? Wool shearings. So those, and then it says those are muksa. So now we have a question of, okay, if they're not muksa and I'm allowed to do hatmana with it, so like what do I do? Like you're telling me to use a muksa object, right? So how does one go about doing it? So Marava loishanu ela shaloitaman behet. That which we said shearings of wool is muksa is only the ones that you don't use for hatmana, for insulating. But those that you use, obviously they're being used on Shabbos, and therefore there's a usage for them, and therefore it's not muksa. And Asa asks Kasha, what do you mean? Why don't you look at the wording of our Mishnah? So one of the Rabbanan asked on that day, he said to Rabba, I understand, look at our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says, Time to be gizet semer, the aim and talton azon. You can go ahead and you do hatzmana with wool shearings, but you can't touch them. So Keitzaru Osa, then the Gemara says, okay, if they're muksa, how do you go about by using it? Keitzaru Osa, so how does he do it? So noitel, esakisui, vehinofas, you take off the cover and they fall on their own. So in other words, the whole point of the Mishnah is because they're muksa. So how could you tell me if you use them around muksa? The point of the Mishnah is saying, how do you go ahead and take the food out is telling you that it's muksa. So Ella only if a person didn't designate, a person designates this wool shearings will be used for insulation, right, for future use, time in and time out, right, then that's not muksa. But that was when he didn't set aside. Even if you just use it once, if you use it that one Shabbos, it's muksa, and that's what our Mishnah is talking about. Our Mishnah is talking about if you use it once, it wasn't designated as using for hatmana. It was just a one-time thing. A one-time thing still remains muksa, and that's why the Mishnah wants to go, okay, how do you take out the food? Because it's still muksa. However, aval yachtam, one who goes ahead and designates it for the purpose of use of lahatmana for insulation, then metaltanosan, then since it's now your designated insulator, therefore you would be able to be metaltanosan. Just a couple more lines. And Itbarnami Kosa Rabin Amar Rabbi Yaakov Amar Rabbi Asi Ben Shal Amar Rabbi Laishanu Ella Shalo Yachtan Latmana. Only if you only if you didn't go ahead and designate it for Hatmana, about Yachtan Latmana. But if you went ahead and designated for insulating for week after week, then Metal to the sun, then Muksa. So this is all the opinion of Rava. And Ravina Omar Bishel Heftek. Shana. We're talking about Bishel Heftek, like of a warehouse, a large warehouse that even if they were used, in other words, he argues, he says, no, in a regular case, no one cares it's not Muksa. When are we talking about that it's Muksa? If it's from a warehouse. If it's from a warehouse, then it's muksa because then you want to put it right back immediately. So even if you use it, that's the case of the Mishnah, right? And Tanya Mihachi, so we learn gizet semer shel heftek. If it's the shear woolings of a heftek of this warehouse which is going to be used, a metalton son, then you can't use it. He's kunan valabayis lishtamish ben metalton son. But if he goes ahead and he designates them to use, and he says, okay, I'm going to use these for Shabbos, then they will not be muksa because then they were not designated, need to be put right back immediately into the warehouse, but those were basically set aside for the owner's private use. All right, we'll stop here. Sunday, Mirz Hashem at 7:30. Everyone have a wonderful